I suppose we always talk as we do about off the field news, and I kind of wanted to separate this a little bit because the footballer of the year, the Golden Boot winner, Mo Salah is coming in for stick galore. And I can honestly say on Saturday, to be objective, I didn't think he had a good game. And there was that one, as you said, I think there's a Bosley shot was going in and he actually turned it over. It just nothing seemed to come off for him at all. But it just seems to be having, I think it's fair to say, I don't know if it's a setup, the personnel, what it is, maybe him directly, but less impact this season. What did you make of kind of him on Saturday and the season so far?
Yeah, he's not been at his best, has he? And I thought Saturday was another game where he kind of struggled to get involved, struggled to find cutting edge. It just didn't really work for him. I thought Tyrick Mitchell did a good job when he was up against him. You got to give credit for that. And it's just not really been Salah's season so far. But it's again, I am generally kind of an optimist in the way I view things, but I kind of having to check myself a little bit when I'm talking about some of this stuff in terms of like, am I just being like too defensive about this? Am I being over the top? And am I struggling to criticize because we see the players, on a weekly basis or whatever? And it's like, no, I don't think I am really, because I got a comment on my YouTube channel after the game, the post-match review, kind of saying, oh, I don't want to come across, I don't know how to say this without being told I'm not a fan, but I can't wait for AFCON to come around for the first time in a long time. And I'm like, we're talking here about one of the greatest Liverpool players of all time. Is he maybe in the conversation for top 10 of all time? Yeah. Maybe top 5. He's that good. Who, by the way, we're not talking about his best years were a long time ago. He got 50-odd goal contributions last season. And then he's coming to this one. He's looked a bit patchy, and Liverpool have played, 8 games, and he's got 6 goals and assists in total. We're talking about him in that way. And people wonder, why someone like Trent can leave and you go, wow, he's disloyal. These guys, Konate might want to go. Why would he want to go when, you've got everything here at Liverpool, these loyal supporters? No, you don't. Because if someone like Mo Salah, who can do everything he's done over the last sort of 7 or 8 years and do everything he did last season, so not a long time ago, and then he can do everything he's done this season in terms of providing winning moments and goals and assists, which is his job. And yes, have slightly patchy form, not being as involved as you like at some times, and just not working for him on occasions. He can have 3 or 4 poor games at the start of a season, but still be producing the goods. And people start talking about him like this. I mean, I'm kind of just, I'm someone who, I love football, and and my main approach to kind of talking about it, I think everyone should do this, in my opinion, is like, have more respect for the players. Have more respect for the players to talk about Mohamed Salah in these terms that I am seeing everywhere after his performances this season. It just blows my mind. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing to be talking about someone who is that good and has been that good recently and has been that good in moments this season? To talk about him in that manner as if you want to write him off. No wonder players want to leave. No wonder there's no loyalty in football, because you don't care about them either. And it's a two-way thing. As soon as a player shows any signs of being even slightly not as good as they once were, he's washed, we should get rid of him, he should be sold this summer. There is no loyalty from your side. So please don't complain if Konaté goes to Real Madrid at the end of this season, or that Trent Alexander-Arnold did that at the end of last season. Fans who talk like this about football, they don't respect the players, and therefore they get what they deserve when these things happen, really. So I just think it's nonsense, really. And Mo Salah's class will prove out before this season ends. I don't doubt that for a moment.
Yeah. It did. Honestly, it is just trying to sort of process all the reactions, and people are absolutely entitled to opinions. They'll have the thoughts, but yeah, we will see, and maybe we'll see even on Tuesday night how Mo Salah responds. And I think part of this, and I've got to ask you honestly as we're talking about this, David, I think that does everything come to the backdrop of the fact that Arsenal got that last minute winner? Does that sort of exasperate the situation, you think, like the way it sits and the way people were already talking before? And people are entitled to opinions, but, Newcastle are going to get a result against Arsenal, we can extend the gap. But because of how the weekend's finished, that sort of bought into the narrative as well.
Yeah, so it makes people feel worse about it, doesn't it? But to use kind of Dr. Steve Peters' language, you kind of sometimes just got to control your chimp a little bit and show some composure. Like, I think we talked about this multiple times last season, like when Liverpool were absolutely running away with it, that like any minor setback, the reaction was crazy and people completely lack the mentality that the players need to have and yet call them bottlers or whatever. So Arsenal win and Liverpool lose. Wow, it's disappointing. Liverpool had a really tough game and they didn't win it and they got beat in the last minute. That's upsetting. Arsenal had a tough game and they came through and they won theirs late on. But I'm like, Liverpool is still top, so they've done better than Arsenal. If Arsenal is so much better than them, they probably should have just picked up more points to prove it. They should have maybe come to Anfield and won, which they didn't do. They got beat. So, it's a setback and you have to accept that those are disappointing. But with 6 games in and Liverpool have won 5 of those and lost 1, and it's a really tough one that they lost at the end of the day. And you can kind of accept that. And I just think, it's an absolutely fine situation to be in. And like I say, I don't think I'm being like a massive sunshiner to say that this is a really good situation. It is a good situation. If anybody had shown you this league table at the start of the season with the fixtures Liverpool have had, I think everybody would have probably taken that, to be honest. So, it is a really good situation. And for me, I look at the teams and I look at, we really focus on Liverpool's issues, and there are definitely some of them. I think the turnover has created a disjointedness that they're trying to work their way through. You've got the likes of Wirtz, Frimpong trying to adapt to a new league and maybe struggling in moments to do that. But I also think Liverpool has shown a lot of upside, which is incredible mentality still there. They can score goals in multiple ways through multiple players, and they've got real strength and depth in attacking terms. And are we supposed to kind of ignore that Arsenal have scored 8 of the 12 goals from set pieces or penalties? If we're talking about sustainable, Liverpool, I back them with this manager and the quality they've got in the squad to click eventually and to really hit the stride, whereas Arsenal, all the questions we had about last season, about the fact that they couldn't score goals from open play, they still exist. So why are we talking about them like they're so much better than they were last season? They have to answer that question more than Liverpool have to answer creating, chemistry amongst players with a huge turnover. That eventually happens, and I think that's Liverpool's biggest problem at the moment. Whereas for Arsenal, they've still got the exact same issue as last season, and nobody's really kind of talking about it. Even yesterday, the 2 goals come from corners, and that's great. But if you go through a run like they did last season where the corner goals just dried up for them, they will start to lose games and drop points. And that for me is a bigger worry for them than it should be for Liverpool about things clicking there. And by the way, I see the comment from Yanis there about attacking fans. It's not attacking fans, but you can't talk about how good you are as supporters and behave in this way around games, in my opinion, or around players. I just think it's a nonsense. And, if we do analyse the games, we talked about the negatives, we talked about the positives, we talked about the game as a whole. It's not analysis to get dragged into narratives because you feel bad about how things went. That's not analysis. It's just emotion driven. And, you can go and watch a fan channel where they rant and rave about things, rather than kind of taking it for what it is and saying there were some positives here and there were some negatives, and just trying to be balanced about it, really. It's that really. It's not attacking fans to say that it's ridiculous for people to be so heavily criticising a squad and a team that has been, had massive turnover, went through everything that they went through over the summer, is top of the league, by the way, is top of the league, and has had some patchy performances, but this happens at this point of the season, particularly when you've had the change. So let's just calm down a bit. Let's just relax. Like, it's no need for some of the stuff we've seen over the last 24 hours, in my opinion.
It's interesting, and the fact that the skipper himself said afterwards the biggest challenge now is to stay calm, and talked about the coming week, and was quite honest about the performance. Said we didn't deserve a point from the Palace game. the biggest way to stay calm, I suppose, is win games, because based on the reaction, that will just silence a lot of everything else. But you made a point then. I did want to sort of press you on it a bit. Set pieces, for me this season, from what I've seen, whatever we think, Arsenal are brilliant at them still. It is a strong weapon for them. You can't really argue any different, and they get 2 goals from it yesterday. This season, we seem to be shipping from set pieces, and we don't seem to be scoring from them. Konaté especially seems to miss some basic, easy, free headers. We need a correction on that soon, don't we?
Yeah, this is the thing. So as much as I say Arsenal are reliant on set pieces, and that's a big issue for them that I think is going to rear its head at some point, you would just like Liverpool to be slightly better at them and slightly closer to Arsenal. You don't have to be Arsenal where it's their only source of goals, but my God, if you could nick a few, that would be great, wouldn't it? And maybe defend them better as well, because the Newcastle game, obviously they win that in the end, but they give up 2 set piece goals. Very, very frustrating. Shouldn't have really even turned into a game, that one. And then Crystal Palace, they dominate you in that first half, hit the post, getting in 1-on-1 constantly. Liverpool could have got away with it. They could have won the game had they not given up 2 set piece goals. So that just shows you, and Liverpool are missing chances, as you say. Arsenal have 7 set piece goals and a penalty out of their 12 goals so far. Liverpool have got 1 set piece goal, and it's not even a corner routine. It's Szoboszlai scoring that absolute stunner against Arsenal, and they've conceded 4. And in this game, it's absolutely cost them. And over this weekend, Arsenal's set piece dominance has got them 3 points, and it's lost Liverpool 3 points. So it's something I'm going to write about actually today. So I'm going to have a piece out on that has to be better. You've got that team in place now. It really needs to start showing results, because if it's deciding games, if it's deciding title races, if it's deciding how close it is at the top, it just shows you it's very, very important. So they don't have to be Arsenal at them, but they've got to get better.
Yeah, he's interesting. Arne Slot talked about it in post-match. That needs to be a big swing there, because we're not really liking what we're seeing on the set-piece scenario at the moment. And a few bits of sort of other off-the-field news. I think many felt this was coming, but Rio Ngamoa has signed a professional contract. He is making strides. I know some reporters phrased it as long-term, but if I'm right, he can only sign a 3-year deal at his age. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's spot on. That's a FIFA rule about kind of the first professional contract can only be of a certain length, and that is 3 years. So what will happen, without a question, is that he'll sign a new one on his 18th birthday, which will be, or around his 18th birthday, which will be 5 years in length. So, but this first one has to be restricted to 3 years. So yeah, never in doubt that he was going to get that. He's only just turned 17, but he's in and around the first team, and he gets on the pitch again at the weekend, doesn't he? And he's just, he's probably more in and around it than we maybe expected at the start of pre-season, but I think he deserves it, and very much looking forward to seeing him go on a bit of a journey this season. And I reckon by the end of it, he's going to be a really solid first-team option.
Just seem to make an impact from the bench. Although, again, I have to think with his age and in certain games, you've got to give him sort of that space that you give to youth players. There will be ups and downs with the kid, but some talent. And I suppose sticking in the forward line, I've got to ask you about this one, because I know we WhatsApp about this. Hugo Ekitike, the fine that wasn't a fine, and Arne Slot. It did seem to just grow arms and legs, that story, a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think we said it last time. I would have been surprised if he got fined, because on what basis, really? I mean, people get sent off all the time, and I know his was a bit comic in the way it came about. That doesn't earn you a fine, does it? So glad to hear Slot confirm that. He said, didn't he, you're allowed to make mistakes at this club without immediately getting fined. And, I think Ekitike, without losing any of his pay packet, would have fully acknowledged it was pretty stupid that he got sent off in the way he did. So, he'll have had a word, and I don't think it will happen again. And, you always think, don't you, kind of, did Liverpool miss him at the weekend? We'll never kind of know exactly, but, would have been helpful to have him there at the very least, wouldn't it? So, a shame he kind of worked out like that. And, he's just got to not do it again. But I'll be amazed if he, over the course of his Liverpool career, gets a second yellow card for taking his shirt off again.
This, from Paul Joyce's article about Mark Guehi and before the game, it's this line that has sort of struck with people. Liverpool will not try to sign him in January. It's not their approach. to pay a significant transfer fee for 5 months before they can recruit a player for nothing. Now, after Saturday's game, where Guehi was really good, to be fair, and Konaté had a bit of a stinker, that's not going to calm the situation, shall we say, which has been the theme of this show.
Yeah, probably not. No reason to doubt Paul's reporting. Obviously, I mean, he's fantastic, so I don't want to throw question marks over that. But you do slightly wonder whether Liverpool are that hard line about it, or whether, with the Leone injury, maybe it'll just kind of change things a little, and over time they'll think it is probably just worth us having that extra option in there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise you at all, would it, if they just went with the 3 that they've got, because it's very Liverpool to do that. But they've also kind of, the last window was like nothing we've ever seen before. So, maybe the approach has kind of changed, and they do things slightly different. And I guess the big decisive factor here is that if there's a number that Palace will do business at, because, for them, they've got that call to make, haven't they, about whether it is 20 million worth anything to us over winning the Conference League, or, these kind of decisions they've got to make, and whether the player just thinks, do you know what, I'll just see the season out. What's another few months of my career here where I'm happy and we're doing well? That feels quite decisive. So we'll see. I don't personally want to kind of rule anything out fully just yet. I would love to see him signed in January, because I think it will be, provide some genuine competition. But equally, I don't think Konaté is going to have a poor season overall either. So, I'm still convinced that he's a really good player. So, yeah, it'd be nice. And as I say, I'm not quite fully ruling it out yet. So we'll see.
We will see. It almost goes back to what we said last show for me, that I think we need another centre-half. If it is Guehi or another fallout runner, especially if you're chasing the 2 biggest pots there are, we will see what develops on that.